So this question is a diagram question. Any question that provides some visual input, I'm going to call a diagram question. More specifically, we have a graph here. Whenever I see a graph, I'm always paying attention to the intercepts. I have a y-intercept here at 3. I have an x-intercept here at, who knows, 1.8, who knows what that is, somewhere around there. The question says the graph of the linear function y equals f of x plus 19 is shown. So, okay, that's a little bit strange, but that's what we're working with. Y equals f of x plus 19 is this graph here that we see. If c and d are positive constants, which equation could define f? Well, what are c and d? We don't know what they are. But when I look at my answer choices, it looks like, d is a number, right, an integer. C is in front of x, so that must be our slope. Right? I think that would make sense. So I'm trying to figure out, well, what is this f of x portion, right? So this f of x portion here must relate to one of these answer choices. That's the goal here. And obviously the only information that's been provided is the diagram, so I need to use that. So let's go to the intercepts, right? Let's anchor ourselves in the intercepts. What does it mean to me that my y-intercept is at positive 3 for this function here, for this graph? It means that f of x must have a negative 16 involved, right? I'm going to say, let's backtrack. If f of x is equal to mx plus b, right? And then we say, well, actually, it's really equal to cx plus d, right? And really, it's plus or minus cx plus or minus d. How do I know that? So I see some answers that have a positive d, some have a negative d. Some have a positive cx and some have a negative cx. So I'm not sure which one it is yet. But this is a structure because this is what we look at for linear equations. Then how would the combination of this plus 19 lead me to having a graph that has a y-intercept of positive 3? The only way is if this is negative 16, right? It's the only way is if this d is negative 16, right? So first of all, I believe d is negative. So that's helpful because choice B has a positive d and choice D has a positive d, okay? So that helps me get down to a 50-50 here. Next, how about my slope? Well, I see that my slope is negative, right? I go down, right, which is negative in terms of my rise. I go to the right, which is positive in terms of my run. Let's not forget that at the most basic level, slope is equal to rise over run. So I know that that should be negative altogether. So that tells me that my c value should be negative. I should have a negative c. Okay, so negative c and a negative d. Both of those scenarios should be true. Let's go back and look at these answer choices to see if there's only one option, in which case that happens, or two options. And it looks like I'm seeing choice A, right? So D is negative and C is negative. Nowhere else does that happen, right? So B doesn't happen, C doesn't happen, and choice D doesn't happen. So I'm going to say choice A is the right answer. And I didn't really need to know any actual numbers to do so. I did find a real number for for D, right? I do know that it has to be negative 16. Because I don't know what this point is here, I can't really just figure out the exact slope. So all that I really paid attention to was whether it's positive or negative. But for this particular question, I think that's enough. So our answer, again, is choice A.